Am I the antagonist for telling my son that he should have told me about his girlfriend's dietary restrictions? My son, 25 years old, started seeing a new girl named Lexi around a year and a half ago. She lives a few hours away, but they see each other often enough. I'd never met her personally until now. I don't know much about her, but she makes my son happy and seems to have a good head on her shoulders. That's all that matters to me. Last Friday we hosted a barbecue and party, around 25-30 people. It was mostly family and friends. My son asked me if he could bring Lexi, and I told him that it was fine. We had ribs, burgers, and wings, as well as some sides that didn't have meat. What my son didn't communicate to me, or to anyone else handling the food, was that Lexi is a very particular eater and wouldn't be able to eat anything we served. Lexi is Catholic and can't eat meat on Fridays. My son was aware of this and invited her to a barbecue knowing what would be served. On top of that, she also has a sort of eating disorder, avoidant restrictive food intake disorder, that limits what kinds of foods she can eat without feeling sick. She was really sweet and I enjoyed her company, but I felt terrible watching her sit without food. When I asked if she'd eaten beforehand, she told me that yes, and that she wasn't hungry. I asked my son separately why he'd gone out to eat right before a barbecue, and he told me that they'd come straight from her house. So I asked him if she didn't like the food, to which he explained why she couldn't eat the meat, and that she wouldn't eat any of the sides either. Since he didn't say anything beforehand, I asked her myself. I asked Lexi if there was anything I could get or make her, or if she wanted us to run somewhere and pick something up. She asked if I had any fruit, so she had fruit salad. After everything was sorted out, my son came up to me and told me that I'd embarrassed her and shouldn't have drawn attention to it. I told him that he should have tried harder to accommodate her, or to at least tell us beforehand that she wouldn't be able to eat what everyone else was. We easily could have made some plain salad or had fruit available at no hassle for anyone else, and she would at least be able to pick at something instead of going hungry. If it were addressed beforehand, then I wouldn't have had to ask. My son left in a huff to bring Lexi home, and he's still insisting that I made a bad impression, and that it wouldn't have been a big deal if she didn't eat. Apparently I made her anxiety worse, but that's according to him, so I'm not sure I believe it. Am I the a-hole? Could I have handled it any other way? She asked for a fruit salad and she got a fruit salad. Sorted. Why is he trying to make a mountain out of a molehill? You were a great hostess. Your son failed as a BF and was embarrassed. He covered it by protecting his poor manners on you. I feel like I might hate my fiance. Sorry for the long post ahead of time. Also, our son is 4 years old. So tonight something scary happened. My son woke up with a stomach ache a couple hours after he went to bed. After a couple minutes, while I was getting ready to lay down with him, he starts complaining that his neck is hurting. This scares me because he had a bad fall on his neck on Sunday evening. So I'm shaking and decide to call his doctor's office, much to my fiance's dismay. As I'm waiting on hold for the on-call nurse, my fiance says he got our son to admit he was faking this so he could sleep with us. Meanwhile, our son was still crying. As I get the nurse on the phone, she suggests a telehealth visit. Again to my fiance's dismay, he thinks our son is making it all up. 10 minutes later, we're on video with one of the doctors, and my son now complains that it hurts to open his mouth when the doctor asked him to. After checking him out, she isn't able to come to any conclusion and recommends her to make sure my kid's okay. Now this was hugely against my fiance's will. Even though I told him I would take our son to the ER and he could just stay home and sleep, he threw his fit and came with us anyway, screaming toddler and all. As we pull away from our driveway, our kiddo starts throwing up in the car. Luckily, I brought one of our small trash cans, just in case, but a good bit of puke was all over our son's seat area. My fiance flipped his frickin' marbles. This man was unhinged and throwing curse words at our son as our poor boy was puking his guts out. I think I hate my fiance. In all those moments where I was anxious and scared and worried as all hell, this man saw our son's ailment as a huge inconvenience, and he had no shame or guilt in letting it be known to us all. Of course he came and apologized later, because that always makes everything better. But why did this all make him so angry? And why is it so difficult to leave his butt and go to the safest place I know? I'm scared I'll feel like a failure. Someone please give me hope. We were going to try some counseling and work on our relationship, but I feel like these fits with him will never end. I literally have no idea what to do. I really feel like I've been going crazy lately and I've had enough. I am just at my wit's end with life right now. Your partner has proven to be unreliable in a crisis. It's time to consider moving on. Leaving may be difficult, but envision a future where you face challenges without their added stress. Your history of breaking up multiple times suggests it's time to prioritize your child's well-being over your own ego. It's time to make a tough decision for the future. Paternity test after a one-night stand? I, 34 years old female, met my boyfriend, 39 years old male, in September and we started dating immediately. In November, a woman from his past that he had a one-night stand with texted him and let him know she was 25 weeks pregnant with his child. My boyfriend didn't question it. He told her that he would love to co-parent with her and be in this child's life if this is his child. He did ask how she got pregnant since she claimed she was on birth control, but she proceeded to say she was taking antibiotics the week before and it just happened. He also asked her why she waited 25 weeks to tell him, and she said because they live 5 minutes apart and in a small town, she was worried he would find out see her. Since November, my boyfriend has requested a paternity test. Since he was never physically dating her, doesn't know if she was seeing other people or dating around. Side note, my boyfriend is financially well off. She has found every excuse under the sun to avoid a paternity test, even saying she would hate for this to become a legal issue, and begged him to not make it a legal issue. It is now March, and we finally were able to get her to take the paternity test. This paternity test was a non-invasive test, since she is due in a few weeks. She refused a copy of her own legal paternity test results, stating she didn't want any document mailed to her home. She is 36 years old and lives with her parents. This legal document would help her establish paternity, help her obtain child support, and even military benefits for this child. Since she has told him she was pregnant, she has not once invited him to a OB appointment. Anyone know why she would hide the pregnancy for this long, and then not want to take a paternity test, have the document in hand, that would essentially help her? We are waiting on results. They will be available in 7 days. I just can't understand, because I promise we're trying to do everything the right way and just establish this. She went on Instagram to say that her doctors say it's a miracle she got pregnant, but God decided to give her a miracle because she has infertility issues, but was on birth control and got pregnant? I know this sounds crazy, but just curious if anyone thinks she's just scamming us or if this is pregnancy hormones. Side note, my boyfriend did seek a lawyer who actually told him to tread lightly and be nice until paternity is established, because she can later use all the texts against him in court. He has never once been rude, but times when he is super frustrated with her, he still will ask, "Is everything okay?" She did take the paternity test, after threatening to legally make her do it. We are just waiting on results, which will be available next week. Her claim to note taking the paternity tests this entire time is she knows who the father is and doesn't make a difference to her because she loves her child regardless, which we understand, but accusing someone of being the father, I would feel like, if you are 100% sure, you would just take it without dodging it for the last 4 months. I know this seems like an obvious red flag, but when you're in this situation, every little thing someone says, or does it honestly really over-evaluate it in your head? You think you're going crazy. Sometimes I think she's just a really good manipulator and plays games with us. She's avoiding receiving paperwork that could potentially reveal the truth because it allows her to remain in denial. It appears to be a calculated move to target the most financially stable partner and hold him responsible. Given the sketchiness of the situation, it's crucial for the boyfriend to insist on a DNA test before making any commitments or decisions that could have serious consequences in the long run. Am I the antagonist for causing a fight between my stepmom and dad? I live with my dad, my stepmom, my 3 stepsister, 22, 18, and 16, and my stepsister's boyfriend. My eldest stepsister, let's call her Mary, is a really mean person. She talks to everyone in the house like garbage. She's mean, confrontational, and entitled. My stepmom separated from their biological father 5 years ago. They lived together until last March, and my dad moved in April. My dad and stepmom were together for 4 years at this point. I moved in July of last year, and this is just temporary. My stepsisters were mad that my stepmom divorced their alcoholic father and immediately hated my dad, and then immediately hated me. The 2 younger siblings have finally come around, but when their sister Mary is around, they don't talk to me. There are 7 people in this house. It's almost impossible to be able to do your laundry. My stepsister Mary also set up her work from home station right by the washer and dryer, so you can't do it during the day Monday, Friday. It's an unspoken rule that if you do laundry, keep an eye on it and don't let it sit in the washer or dryer when it's done. Last night I went to do a load of my work clothes, and I noticed that Mary had her laundry in the washer. She wasn't home either. I waited and she never came home. After an hour, I decided to just move her clothes over to the dryer and put my load in the washer. An hour after that, she came home and freaked out on me. We have never spoken before except for a hi the first time I met her back in June 2023. She started yelling at me, so I told her, "Just because you talk to everyone else in this house like they are a piece of shit doesn't mean you can do that with me," and she lost her mind. She ended up calling me a fucking bitch. I didn't yell back or call her names. I told my dad this morning about what happened just to let him know from me and not hear it down the grapevine. I wasn't even upset or mad because I know how Mary is. My dad got really upset about this, and now my stepmom and him are fighting. My stepmom isn't mad at me. She doesn't think I did anything wrong, but she also allows her kids to be disrespectful to her and everyone else. My stepmom is a lovely woman. She's always been loving and kind to me, extremely welcoming. I didn't tell my dad to cause a fight, and I feel absolutely terrible and like an asshole for even moving her clothes now. Am I the asshole? I think your stepmother has to actually understand that you can be loving without allowing someone to walk all over them. Hopefully you and your dad can help her see the light. Am I the antagonist for not informing my friend's ex about his recent heart attack after he nearly died? I, a 39-year-old woman, met a man, a 45-year-old man whom we'll refer to as Kevin, approximately 4 years ago. He had recently been through a breakup with his girlfriend, who coincidentally lived in the same city as I did. Kevin had relocated to my country from a distant land in pursuit of employment opportunities. I later learned that he followed her after he broke up. Initially, I sympathized with Kevin, unaware of the self-inflicted nature of his predicaments. However, as time passed, it became evident that he habitually played the victim, disregarding sound advice and persisting in foolish decisions. Approximately 1 year ago, Kevin approached me seeking assistance with a legal matter. He asserted his innocence despite facing a court order. Upon pressing for details, Kevin reluctantly confessed to a restraining order filed against him by his aforementioned ex-girlfriend, whom he allegedly surveilled from a distance with binoculars, rationalizing it as a gesture of concern. Subsequent incidents, including following her on a bicycle and trespassing into her residence to leave a note, further underscored his unsettling behavior. Subsequently, I severed all ties with Kevin, refusing to entertain any further requests for assistance. This week, I received a distressing message from him, claiming that he had nearly succumbed to death's grasp. Feeling a surge of concern and sympathy, I hurried to the hospital to check on his well-being. Upon arrival, he said it was an acute cardiac arrest, fortunately not requiring surgery. During my visit, he made an unexpected request that I reach out to his ex-partner and inform her of his medical emergency. His reasoning stemmed from her own father's heart attack, believing she'd be distressed if not informed. Yet, I reminded him of their prolonged separation and the restraining order, and I expressed my discomfort in acting as an intermediary. In response, I reiterated my stance during our hospital conversation, drawing parallels from my own past experiences with persistent exes. His subsequent message attempted to shift blame. He justified the restraining order against him as a result of her past trauma, minimizing his culpability. Confronted with this mindset, I made the decision to cut contact, informing him of my relief at his well-being but firmly declining any further involvement. Subsequently, I blocked him from contacting me. Despite my husband and one supportive friend endorsing my decision, I find myself bombarded with messages from his acquaintances castigating me for my alleged cruelty, especially given his ongoing hospitalization. While I maintain confidence in the correctness of my actions, I can't shake the feeling of guilt for causing him additional stress in the wake of his recent health scare. So, am I the asshole? You did the right thing to cut contact, again, and I strongly urge you not to be roped into continued friendship or contact with him. Am I the antagonist for calling my gay roommate, homie or bro, without knowing she's sensitive to these terms? My roommate, who we will call Denise, is in love with me. I've told her that while I find it endearing, I do not like women. While we do engage in a lot of activities, cooking, shopping, and building puzzles, I respect her views, and have mentioned that I do not see her in a romantic way but a friend. I used to bring my boyfriend at the time over and she hated him. After mentioning that I was talking to a guy at a bar, she mentioned that she refuses to hear my stories involving men, which made me uncomfortable because I do not have many female friends and thought we could talk about anything. On Tuesday, we were set to cook burgers together and I mentioned to her that I was stuck in a very important meeting. I did mention that I would have one burger versus two, and she asked if she could have my other one. After saying no, she kept being persistent and I said, "That's my dinner for tomorrow, homie." Then I said, "I'll be coming home late, homie." She flipped out and said, Homie? Jesus, I get it, woman." So I said, "Is everything okay?" And she replies, "Don't call me homie or bro. I've never liked it and it makes me feel less feminine." Me calling her homie was never to offend her, and had I known that these terms make her feel sensitive, then I wouldn't have used them. I told her that the conversation is making me feel uncomfortable and that this should be discussed in person since it wasn't a good time because, again, I was in a very important meeting. I never meant to hurt her feelings. She then insisted that I come home. Again, I was in a very important meeting, but the way she said it reminded me of an old toxic boyfriend I used to have, and would say that during arguments. I ended the conversation by saying, "I understand your thoughts and they are understood, however, this is not a good time to talk." She ended the conversation by saying, "Just so you know, you spun this around, then shut it down. You always think about yourself. I'm sorry you are like this." I like to believe that I've been a good roommate, respectful, kind, and understanding. If I did call her man, I would apologize, but my vocabulary consisted of calling my friends bro, homie, home slice, and girly pops. This interaction has turned me off from being her friend since she lashed out on me, but also the fact that I've catered to her needs since we've both moved in together, leaving me with no time to myself. Last time I did laundry without her and she said, "I would never done that to you." I think she's almost infatuated with this idea of me somehow falling for her or holding to that thought, which is never going to happen. After talking to friends, they have agreed that it sounded like a couple fighting. Am I the asshole? It's time to move out immediately and find a new roommate. If the roles were reversed and you had a possessive male roommate, would you be so nonchalant about it? This situation will only get worse, and it's time to set boundaries or find someone who respects your personal space. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.